Hello and welcome to a fresh new edition of Melt. I'm Ritvika Gupta, and on today's episode we'll be speaking to John Seifert, Ogilvy and Mather. Of course, joining me today is Anant Rangaswami, the editor of Melt. Anant, you spoke to John and he discussed the challenges, which clients are facing, the biggest concerns clients are facing. So what's your take on that?
I discussed the problems that the clients are facing because that flips back to the problems that agencies are facing.
Right.
The bigger the problems clients face, the bigger problem agencies face. So I tried to get John to talk to me about what is the future of the advertising agency business as told through the challenges that the marketer faces. Now, it's an important conversation in India because Ogilvy is the largest advertising agency in India.
Right.
And in many ways, marketers look to what is happening at Ogilvy to get a sense of what is happening in the advertising agency business. They are the bellwether. So I talked to John about the future of the business, whether the advertising agency business indeed has a future. What are the challenges and threats from small shops or from the consultants? Will they coexist? Do they have different roles, each of them contributing to the growth of the marketer? Fundamentally, what comes out is as simple as this, that unless agencies can help clients improve top lines or bottom lines, conversations are going to be about outcomes. And they're not going to be about pretty ads anymore, which is fundamentally, like I said, what I want this show to go towards, talking about outcomes or ROI or business results as opposed to pretty ads. Right. So that's what John says.
All right, so let's watch the conversation with John Seifert. Let's get ready to melt with John Seifert.
John, welcome to India.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for having this conversation with us.
My pleasure.
So let's put your clients at the center of the conversation that we're going to have.
Perfect.
So, it's so much changing. Perhaps the person with the biggest headache is the client. So if you were to rattle off 3, 4, 5, whatever that number may be, biggest concerns of the client, what would they be?
The first and maybe the most important is growth.
Right.
Most of our clients are struggling to find growth in a world that's become more competitive than I can ever remember in my 40 years in the business.
Right.
With a lack of top-line growth comes more pressure on costs. And so whether it's an activist investor or just investors generally who are putting pressure on CEOs and their leadership team, when growth isn't happening to expectations, they turn to costs to say, how can we ensure that you're going to meet your monthly, quarterly profit targets, your earnings outlook. So the cost pressure combined with it's so much more challenging to find growth in the current environment means that there's more pressure on our day-to-day clients, our marketing clients, our sales clients, our innovation clients, to really figure out how are they going to break through and find growth in a much more challenged environment.
I think with new problems, you mentioned competition is one, you mentioned growth, perhaps innovation, or black swans from all over the place.
Exactly.
I think that's another. But in addition to that, you've had media that's changing dramatically. So 20 years ago he didn't have, say, social or digital. Today he has that.
Yep.
And you got the media environment, part of it measurable, part of it not measurable.
Right.
And another problem is part of it attributable, part not. How does he navigate these?
Well, I think that, so when you have a growth problem, a top line revenue problem, and you have pressure on marketing and sales to figure out how to spend more limited dollars smarter and more effectively, and you have the complexity of this completely disruptive environment now through the advent of digital technology, it now becomes more important than ever. You have more options than ever in which to reach consumers, engage them, communicate with them, sell to them, serve them. With that complexity of the ecosystem that digital has brought into the picture, you have many more challenges now on what works, right. What is effective. How can I assume that $1 of, say, traditional advertising in television or print or out of home is worth it when I have to attribute what that dollar creates in terms of awareness and interest to buy right through the value chain of how you acquire customers and ultimately then how you finalize your sales. So it's never been more complicated to put all those pieces together and, as you say, attribute each of the piece parts to an outcome called a final sale or a loyal customer or a high value customer. Now the good news is we've never had more data. So there's never been more data across all those aspects of the ecosystem in which to be informed, but we are still a long way away of putting all that data together to really understand how each piece contributes its fair share to the overall agenda. Yeah. And that's something that every client is focused on. The good news for us is that while that puts pressure on us in the short term to be more accountable for the work we do, the money that our clients spend through us, the good news is that they're now looking to us to help them connect the dots and bring this all together as never before. And so I think what's been a very fragmented marketing and communications environment of the past, say, 3 to 5 years, I think is increasingly now going to be much more focused on being integrated, connected, and attributable across all the different spending dynamics that go into a marketing sales agenda.
Yeah, your success sometimes is a negative as well. You won at Cannes 5, 6, 7 years as Creative Agency of the Year.
Yep.
But you're not thought of as a powerhouse in the digital or social area. So that's a bit of a mountain you have to climb, isn't it?
Exactly.
Correcting the perception.
No, and the truth is, over 50% of our revenue is in digital something.
Right.
So the world is digital. And it is true that as an agency that just turned 70 years old, our perception is more associated with famous advertising campaigns, creativity at the heart of communications. But if I showed you the work that we now do every day, it is much more integrated in terms of a true digital agenda. I mean, today I spent a whole day reviewing Vodafone and Amazon, work that we're increasingly doing for legacy clients like Unilever and others. You would see work that defines the brand. So we continue to play a very important role in terms of being an insight provider and a steward of brand thinking for our clients. You would see a whole new range of creative communications that are both in traditional channels and in digital channels being developed. But at the same time, you would see us much more involved in all the activity that goes through social media, that goes into the e-commerce sites, where we have to actually create the content and the ultimate connections that lead to a sale. And increasingly, those clients won't be the exception, they will be the rule. You will see that we have to be involved end to end. Doesn't mean we do everything. We work through multiple partners, whether they're within the WPP group or outside it through the major platforms. But the fact is, we have a role to play throughout the whole brand agenda.
Right. Now, imagine a client who gets a visit from one of the big 5 consultants, and they say we can do a better job than Ogilvy.
Yeah.
And the client comes back to you and say, well, can they, can't they? What's your answer to him?
Well, I think you have to remember where the consultants start. So the consultants start typically in the context of what the clients would describe as their digital transformation. So the consultants have gone in to help them understand what has to change in terms of their management structure, what has to change in terms of their business model design, what has to change in terms of their overall technology platforms. How does that all get rewired in a modern digital economy? Those are big, heavy lifting questions. That's not our job. That's not the role that we play. Now, the unintended consequence is that consultants, those jobs only last so long.
Right.
And now consultants who were typically
time-bound.
Yeah, the consultants were typically in and out.
Right.
You had a problem, here's how to think about that problem, here's some advice on what to do about it. Now consultants realize, because they have their own growth challenges, they want to stick around. And so consultants have increasingly promised clients that they can do what we do, sometimes for no money, for free, as long as it comes with the other work I just described. Now, and some of those clients are taking advantage of that offer. Who doesn't want something for free? But the truth is that those consultants do not put creativity at the heart of their organizations. They don't hire the same kind of people that we hire to think through how to create stories, how to build emotional connections to brands, how to connect culturally with the things that are changing in society and the world. That's ultimately what sustains brands. And so I believe our role, while it's been somewhat disintermediated in the short term, when clients understand that we can operate across the entire digital landscape, when we can continue to provide the kind of differential creativity that they've counted on us for years and years and years, and we can be very smart about how they spend their money and be accountable for the results in the marketplace, our value proposition will be stronger than ever. Yeah. But we have to connect the dots. We have to put these pieces together better so that clients see the value in what it costs them, but more importantly, they see the value in what it means in the marketplace. I'm a big believer that in the next 5 to 10 years, any agency that survives is going to be rewarded, recognized almost solely on market outcomes. The days of making money on commissions, whether it's being through media or what you make, those days are probably coming to an end. And we're going to be judged on, is our creativity, is our content, is the work
so
that we do.
So it's more FEs than can?
Well, I think actually can and FEs have come together.
Right.
Because I think what now even can celebrates is big ideas, creativity applied, and big market outcomes that clients are seeking. And to me, and I've talked to the Cannes team about this at length, I think you're going to see Cannes become an awards show that's much more about business transformation. They are going to recognize and reward creativity applied in the largest context of what it means to drive successful brands for the future. If you asked most global brand leaders today, they will tell you their biggest competition is coming not from each other, it's coming from the entrepreneurial spirit that goes on in local markets. Any creative company that tries to support a local business or a mid-sized business in a local market will be a threat. Creativity, innovation, brand building, that is never going to go away, and I think everyone will just learn how to adapt to meet the challenges that go with all that. So I am nothing but an optimist about our future.